Rafik had learned to wake before the sun, not because he wanted to, but because the world rarely left space for men like him once it was awake. That morning, the sky was still bruised with night when he sat on the curb outside what used to be his home, a single torn bag at his feet. The landlord's words echoed in his ears like a cruel refrain: no rent, no room. Just like that, years of quiet existence had been reduced to a locked door and a man standing outside it. Rafik was a garbage collector. Not the kind people noticed, not the kind anyone thanked. He moved through the city like a shadow, lifting, sorting, carrying what others threw away. But if you had asked him, he would have told you with quiet pride, "I clean the world, one street at a time." Now he had nowhere to return to after doing that work. He stood slowly, brushing dust from his worn uniform, and slung the bag over his shoulder. There was no time to feel sorry for himself. Hunger didn't wait, and neither did the city's trash. As he walked toward his route, the streets began to stir. Coffee shops opening, cars humming to life, people stepping into their routines. To them, this was just another day. To Rafik, it felt like the first step into uncertainty. By noon, the sun burned overhead, and his back ached from lifting bins heavier than usual. His stomach growled, but he ignored it. He had learned long ago that some discomforts were simply part of living. It was behind a tall office building that something unusual caught his eye, a crumpled stack of paper sticking out of a trash bag. Normally he wouldn't bother. Paper was paper. But something about the way it was clipped together made him pause. He pulled it out carefully, dusting off coffee stains and smudges. At the top, in bold letters, it read, "National Innovation Challenge. Grand prize, $50,000. Rafik blinked. $50,000. 50 lakh rupees. For a moment he thought he had read it wrong. Scanning lines he could barely understand. It was some kind of competition. Solve a problem, propose a solution, change lives. He almost laughed. What would I know about solving big problems? He muttered. But as he turned to toss the papers back into the trash, something stopped him. A line near the bottom caught his attention. "We welcome ideas from all walks of life." All walks of life. Rafik stood still. His entire life had been spent seeing what others ignored: overflowing garbage, wasted food, broken systems, problems no one wanted to touch. What if? He shook his head. It was foolish. People like him didn't win competitions. They didn't even enter them. Still, he folded the papers carefully and tucked them into his bag. That night, he slept under a flickering streetlight near a bus stop. The cold crept into his bones, but his mind refused to rest. The words from the paper circled endlessly in his thoughts. All walks of life. He remembered the countless times he had seen edible food thrown away while people nearby went hungry. He remembered sorting recyclable materials that could have been reused but weren't. He remembered children picking through dumps, searching for scraps. A problem, a solution. By morning, something inside him had shifted. Over the next few days, Rafik began to observe his work differently. Every trash bag became data. Every discarded item told a story. He started collecting notes, scribbling on scraps of paper, piecing together an idea. What if waste could be sorted at the source? What if communities were given simple, affordable tools to separate food, recyclables, and harmful waste? What if the very people ignored by society, the garbage collectors, were trained and empowered to lead this change? He didn't have fancy words or technical diagrams, but he had something else: lived experience. When he finally found a public library, he hesitated at the door. The building felt too clean, too quiet, too not meant for him. But then he remembered the line again: all walks of life. Taking a deep breath, he stepped inside. The librarian glanced at him briefly but said nothing. Rafik found a corner and spread out his papers. Slowly, painfully, he began to write. He looked up words he didn't know. He rewrote sentences again and again until they made sense. Days turned into weeks. Hunger and exhaustion became his companions, but so did something new: hope. One evening, as the deadline loomed, he realized he didn't have money for submission fees or printing. His heart sank. That's when Maria noticed him. She was a regular at the library, a teacher with kind eyes and a habit of paying attention. She had seen Rafik come in every day, his clothes dusty, his determination unwavering. "Are you working on something important?" she asked gently. Rafiq hesitated. Then, for reasons he couldn't explain, he told her everything. Maria listened without interrupting. When he finished, she smiled. "This isn't just important," she said softly. "This could change lives." Before he could protest, she stood up. "Come with me." She helped him type his proposal, corrected grammar, and paid the submission fee without a second thought. "Why?" Rafiq asked, his voice trembling. Maria shrugged. "Because sometimes all someone needs is a little help to be seen." Weeks passed. Rafiq returned to his routine, though something inside him had quieted. He had done what he could. That was enough, or so he thought. One afternoon, as he sorted through bins, a sleek black car pulled up beside him. He froze, unsure if he had done something wrong. A man in a suit stepped out, holding a folder. "Are you Rafiq?" he asked. Rafiq nodded cautiously. Dean smiled. "Congratulations, you've been selected as the winner of the National Innovation Challenge." "What?" Rafiq whispered. "Your proposal," the man continued, "was extraordinary, practical, humane, and scalable. You saw a problem most people overlook, and you offered a solution rooted in dignity." Rafiq's hands trembled. "$50,000, the man said, extending his hand. "It's yours." For a moment, Rafiq couldn't move. Tears blurred his vision, not because of the money, but because for the first time in his life, someone had seen him, really seen him. The news spread quickly. Media outlets picked up his story, from evicted garbage collector to innovation winner. People who had once ignored him now wanted interviews, but Rafiq didn't let it change him. The first thing he did was find Maria. "I couldn't have done this without you," he said, placing a portion of the prize money in her hands. She shook her head, tears in her eyes. "You did this, Rafiq. I just held the door open." Then he did something no one expected. Instead of buying a house for himself, he invested in his idea. He created a small organization that trained garbage collectors, provided sorting tools to low-income neighborhoods, and partnered with local communities to reduce waste and feed the hungry. Within a year, entire blocks transformed. Less waste, more food distribution, cleaner streets, empowered workers. And Rafiq? He still woke up before the sun. But now, he walked through the city not as a shadow, but as a light. One evening, as he stood outside a community center watching children laugh over meals that would have once been thrown away, Maria joined him. "You could have chosen an easier life," she said. Rafiq smiled softly. "I already know what it feels like to have nothing," he replied. "If I can make sure someone else doesn't feel that, then I have everything." The streetlights flickered on, casting a warm glow over the scene, and in that quiet moment, something profound became clear. Sometimes, the people the world overlooks are the ones who see its problems most clearly. Sometimes, the hands that carry the heaviest burdens are the ones capable of creating the greatest change. And sometimes, all it takes is one act of kindness, one person believing in another, to turn a life around. Rafiq had once been thrown out like yesterday's trash, but he rose, not just for himself, but for everyone who had ever been told they didn't matter. Because they do. We all do. And the world changes the moment we start seeing each other that way.